You know the face. It's etched into the very fabric of Hollywood, a rugged landscape of stoicism, charm, and an almost anachronistic authenticity. Kevin Costner, the last true cowboy of the silver screen, a name synonymous with monumental cinematic achievements that didn't just entertain but often redefined genres and etched themselves into our collective memory. From the fearless, unwavering protector in The Bodyguard, his piercing gaze a shield against the world, to the soulful, impossible dreamer who built a baseball field in his cornfield and Field of Dreams, believing in something beyond the tangible, beyond logic. And then there's Dances with Wolves, a sprawling epic he not only starred in, but masterfully directed, forever changing the way America viewed its own frontier history, sweeping the Oscars and cementing his place as a visionary force. For decades, Costner has been the embodiment of strength, resilience, and an unwavering moral compass on screen. He commanded the attention of millions, a larger-than-life figure who seemed to navigate the treacherous waters of fame with an enviable grace. His public persona has always radiated a quiet confidence, a calm collectedness that suggested a man utterly in control, both of his craft and his destiny. But what if, behind that familiar, often comforting smile, there lies a storm so profound, so devastating, that it would challenge the very foundations of any mortal man? What if the life of this Hollywood legend, as he now steps into his 7th decade, is far from the serene portrait we've been accustomed to seeing? At 70, a time when many might expect to settle into the golden years of reflective tranquility, Kevin Costner finds himself confronting battles far more personal, far more heartbreaking than any scripted drama could ever truly convey. The man who once built worlds on screen, whose characters faced down impossible odds with an indomitable spirit, is now navigating a very real landscape of loss, unexpected changes, and emotional upheaval that money, fame, or even a shelf full of Academy Awards simply cannot shield him from. It's a poignant dichotomy, the outward glow of continued success, even a career resurgence, juxtaposed against a deeply private struggle that casts a long, often invisible shadow over his otherwise luminous life. This isn't just about the inevitable challenges that come with age, or the usual tabloid fodder of celebrity lives. This is a story of profound personal tests, of the kind of raw, exposed vulnerability that few, even the most seasoned actors, ever truly reveal. It's about the true cost of a legacy, the sacrifices made, the love found and lost, and the relentless march of time that spares no one, not even the titans of cinema. We delve deep into the untold journey of Kevin Costner, from the dusty, humble roads of Lynwood, California, to the glittering pinnacles of Hollywood, exploring the seismic shifts that have shaped him, the strength that has sustained him, and the pain that has undeniably marked him. Prepare to discover why, even amidst an unseen storm, the world still recognizes him as the last true cowboy, not just of Hollywood, but of a life lived with an unwavering, albeit sometimes tragic, authenticity. Born on January 18, 1955, in the working-class Southern California city of Lynwood, Kevin Costner's early life was far removed from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. He wasn't born into a show business dynasty or a family with deep connections to the entertainment industry. Instead, his roots were firmly planted in the practical, blue-collar world. His father, William Costner, was first a ditch digger, then an electrician, and eventually a utilities executive, while his mother, Sharon Ray, worked as a welfare worker. This grounded, no-nonsense upbringing would profoundly shape the man he became, instilling in him a formidable work ethic and a down-to-earth sensibility that few stars of his magnitude possess. His childhood was marked by frequent relocations across California due to his father's career, moving through towns like Compton, Ventura, Visalia, and finally settling in Orange County. This constant uprooting meant new schools, new friends, and a perpetual sense of being the new kid. It fostered an adaptability, but perhaps also a yearning for a fixed place, a stable identity. He was never one to chase the spotlight as a child. His passions lay elsewhere. Young Kevin was an athlete, with baseball holding a particularly strong allure. He envisioned a future on the diamond, not on the silver screen. Acting was simply not on his radar. He wasn't involved in school plays or drama clubs, instead pouring his energy into sports and academics, pursuing what appeared to be a conventional path. After graduating from Villa Park High School, Costner enrolled at California State University, Fullerton, where he studied business. This was a pragmatic choice, reflecting his grounded nature and a desire for financial security rather than artistic expression. It was during his college years that he met Cindy Silva, an intelligent and supportive woman who would become his first wife and a crucial pillar of strength in the challenging years to come. Their relationship began as a typical college romance, blossoming into a deep partnership that would withstand the initial tremors of his ambition. Upon graduating, Costner took a marketing job, settling into what seemed like a stable, predictable life. But fate, as it often does, had a more dramatic script in mind for him. The pivotal moment, often recounted with an almost mythic quality, occurred on a flight back from Mexico. Seated next to him was the legendary Welsh actor Richard Burton, a titan of the stage and screen. Though hesitant, Costner, buoyed by the prospect of a dramatic change in his life, mustered the courage to ask Burton for advice on pursuing an acting career. Burton, in a brief but profound exchange, encouraged him to follow his dreams, to truly commit. That chance encounter, a mere whisper of encouragement from a master, ignited a spark within Costner that would soon become an inferno. He made the audacious decision to quit his marketing job, leaving behind the safety net of a regular paycheck and a conventional future to chase the elusive dream of Hollywood. This was a terrifying leap of faith, particularly with a young family to support. Kevin's wife, Cindy, became his unwavering anchor. While he dedicated himself to acting classes and auditions, she worked multiple jobs, sometimes as many as 3, to keep them afloat. Her belief in him was absolute, her sacrifice immeasurable. Together, they faced the grim reality of Hollywood's back alleys, far from the red carpet. They lived in small, often dilapidated apartments, surviving on shoestring budgets. Costner himself took on a dizzying array of odd jobs to make ends meet. Working on fishing boats, driving trucks, even giving tours of movie stars' homes, ironically guiding tourists past the very gates he now desperately hoped to enter as an equal. He did anything, no matter how unglamorous, to support his dream and his family. The early years were a relentless grind of rejection. Audition after audition, each one a flicker of hope extinguished by a polite no. The emotional toll of constant professional dismissal would have broken lesser spirits, but Costner's quiet determination, that innate stubbornness born from his humble roots, kept him going. He landed a handful of forgettable roles in obscure films, blink-and-you'll-miss-it appearances that offered little more than a credit and a meager paycheck. There was Sizzle Beach, USA in 1981, a low-budget production he would later try to bury, and minor parts in films like Night Shift and Francis in 1982. These were not the roles that launched careers, they were the proof of persistence. Then came a tantalizing near breakthrough with Lawrence Kasdan's critically acclaimed 1983 film The Big Chill. Costner was cast as Alex, the character whose suicide serves as the catalyst for the reunion of college friends. He filmed all his scenes, but in a devastating twist, his entire performance was cut from the final theatrical release, appearing only in a brief, uncredited flashback in the director's cut. It was a crushing blow, a cruel reminder of how fleeting success could be in Hollywood. Yet, it proved to be a pivotal moment. Director Lawrence Kasdan, impressed by Costner's raw talent and professionalism despite the painful edit, vowed to cast him in a future project. That promise materialized just 2 years later. Costner landed his first true lead role in Fandango, 1985, a road trip comedy drama that showcased his burgeoning charisma. But it was Kasdan who truly opened the door to stardom. Keeping his word, he cast Costner as Jake in the 1985 Western Silverado. This was it. Costner exploded onto the screen with an electrifying, scene-stealing performance as the charismatic, quick-witted outlaw. His character's swagger, his charming grin, and his effortless cool captivated audiences. Silverado wasn't just another role. It was the definitive moment when Kevin Costner, the struggling actor from Lynwood, shed his anonymity and announced his arrival as a bona fide Hollywood star. The journey from dusty roads to Hollywood's horizon had finally reached its destination, and the last true cowboy had found his saddle. But as the curtain closed on the 1980s and the new decade dawned, a different kind of star was ascendant, a man who seemed to embody the very spirit of American fortitude and romanticism. This was Kevin Costner, and his rise was nothing short of meteoric. The cinematic landscape of the late 80s and early 90s was ripe for a hero who was both rugged and refined, intelligent yet accessible, a man who could wear a Stetson or a suit with equal conviction. Costner didn't just fill that void, he redefined it, carving out an indelible image that would come to define an entire generation of filmgoers. He was the last true cowboy, yes, but he was also the honest lawman, the charming athlete, and the unwavering dreamer. His transformation from a promising actor to a bona fide leading man began with a bang, a thunderous introduction that announced his arrival with the force of a Prohibition-era raid. That arrival was in Brian De Palma's electrifying 1987 gangster epic, The Untouchables. Costner stepped into the shoes of Elliot Ness, the real-life federal agent tasked with bringing down Al Capone in the treacherous streets of Chicago. Surrounded by acting heavyweights like Robert De Niro as the monstrous Capone and Sean Connery in an Oscar-winning turn as the street-smart Irish cop Jim Malone, Costner could have easily been overshadowed. Yet he wasn't. Instead, he commanded the screen with a quiet intensity, portraying Ness not as a cartoonishly brave hero, but as a man burdened by an almost unbearable sense of duty and moral rectitude. He was the unwavering beacon of integrity in a city drowning in corruption and violence, a clean-cut idealist determined to uphold the law against seemingly insurmountable odds. His performance was not about flashy theatrics, it was about the profound weight of conviction, the desperate fight for justice when the system itself seemed broken. The Untouchables didn't just showcase Costner's ability to hold his own amongst legends, it firmly established him as the archetypal American hero, principled, determined, and deeply ethical. It was the role that moved him from respected supporting player to undisputed leading man, laying the groundwork for the era he was about to define. Just a year later, Costner pivoted sharply, demonstrating a versatility that audiences hadn't yet fully grasped. He traded the grim streets of Chicago for the dusty baseball diamonds of North Carolina in Ron Shelton's critically acclaimed romantic comedy Bull Durham. Here, Costner shed the stoic lawman persona to embody Crash Davis, a seasoned, world-weary minor league catcher tasked with mentoring a hotshot but dim-witted pitcher. This role allowed Costner to unleash a charm and wit that was utterly captivating. Crash Davis was intelligent, cynical, yet undeniably passionate about the game and life itself. He delivered Shelton's razor-sharp dialogue with a natural ease, portraying a man who understood the nuances of baseball as intimately as he understood the complexities of human relationships. His chemistry with Susan Sarandon's Annie Savoy was palpable, a sophisticated dance of intellect and sensuality that redefined the sports romance genre. Bull Durham wasn't just a home run at the box office. It was a critical darling that solidified Costner's status as a bona fide movie star, capable of carrying a film with his sheer charisma and understated sex appeal. He wasn't just the honest hero, he was also the smart, subtly rebellious, and undeniably attractive anti-hero, proving he could navigate dramatic weight with a light, humorous touch. He was the thinking woman's heartthrob, a man whose masculinity was not just physical, but intellectual and deeply felt. But it was in 1989 that Kevin Costner truly cemented his place in the pantheon of American cinematic legends, starring in a film that would become a cultural touchstone, Field of Dreams. This movie transcended mere entertainment, becoming a profound meditation on faith, family, and the power of believing in the impossible. Costner played Ray Kinsella, an Iowa farmer who, guided by a mysterious voice, plows under his cornfield to build a baseball diamond, convinced that if you build it, he will come. His portrayal of Kinsella was pure, unadulterated American idealism. He wasn't a hero in the traditional sense. He was a dreamer, a man driven by an inexplicable calling, navigating skepticism and ridicule with a quiet, unwavering conviction. Costner brought an earnestness and vulnerability to Ray that resonated deeply with audiences. He embodied the longing for a simpler time, the desire for reconciliation, and the belief in second chances. The film tapped into universal themes of father-son relationships, regret, and the pursuit of long-lost dreams, all through the lens of America's national pastime. Field of Dreams didn't just make audiences cry, it made them believe. It enshrined Costner as the quintessential American everyman who dared to dream big, connecting his persona to the very fabric of national mythology. He became synonymous with hope, nostalgia, and the enduring power of the American spirit, an actor who could effortlessly convey profound emotion and aspirational goodness. The film's enduring popularity and its emotional weight remain a testament to Costner's ability to tap into the collective consciousness, solidifying his image as the wholesome yet profoundly moving cinematic hero. As the new decade unfurled, Costner's star power reached stratospheric heights, culminating in a series of blockbuster successes that solidified his global appeal. One of the most significant of these was the 1991 action-adventure epic Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Taking on the iconic role of the legendary outlaw, Costner brought his unique blend of rugged charm and moral certainty to the character. Though his portrayal, particularly his American accent amidst a predominantly British cast, drew some critical debate, the film was an undeniable commercial juggernaut. It became one of the highest-grossing films of the year, a testament to Costner's immense box office draw and his ability to command a massive international audience. He was the rebellious noble, fighting against tyranny and injustice, protecting the downtrodden, and capturing the hearts of millions. The film showcased Costner's capabilities in large-scale action sequences and demonstrated his prowess in leading a major studio tentpole production. It further burnished his image as a heroic figure, one who stood up for what was right, even when it meant defying authority. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves proved that Kevin Costner was not just an actor capable of nuanced performances. He was a full-fledged movie star, a global commodity whose name alone could guarantee immense public interest and massive financial returns. In this golden age, Kevin Costner didn't just star in movies, he shaped them. Through The Untouchables, Bull Durham, Field of Dreams, and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, he crafted a cinematic persona that was at once diverse and remarkably consistent. He was the unwavering moral compass, the charming rogue, the profound dreamer, and the valiant protector. He embodied a particular strain of American heroism, grounded, principled, often quiet in his conviction, but always ready to fight for what he believed in. These roles didn't just launch his career, they defined an era, resonating with audiences who saw in him an authentic reflection of their own ideals and aspirations. Costner became the quintessential American hero, a leading man who could bridge the gap between gritty realism and soaring idealism, defining the very essence of blockbuster cinema for a generation. The world watched, captivated, as Kevin Costner built his legend, piece by meticulously crafted piece. After years of charming audiences as the undeniable leading man, a star whose charisma lit up every frame he inhabited, Kevin Costner harbored an ambition far grander than any role he'd ever played. He wasn't content to simply deliver lines. He yearned to sculpt entire worlds, to breathe life into narratives that resonated deep within his soul. This yearning coalesced around a singular story, a sprawling tale of the American frontier, cultural collision, and a profound personal transformation. Michael Blake's novel, Dances with Wolves. For Costner, this wasn't just another potential film project. It was an obsession, a calling that would consume years of his life, demand every ounce of his energy, and force him to risk everything he had painstakingly built. He saw in Blake's narrative not merely a Western, but a crucial reimagining of a foundational American myth, A chance to portray Native American cultures with dignity and complexity, a stark departure from the two-dimensional portrayals that had historically plagued Hollywood. He envisioned epic vistas, intimate moments of understanding, and the raw, untamed beauty of a disappearing world. But vision alone does not build a motion picture, especially one of this monumental scale. The journey to bring Dances with Wolves to the screen was arduous, fraught with skepticism and riddled with seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Hollywood, ever cautious and notoriously short-sighted, looked at Costner's dream with a jaundiced eye. A 3-hour-plus Western, largely spoken in the Lakota language, requiring subtitles? Starring an actor who is still primarily known for romantic leads in action flicks, venturing into the director's chair for the very first time? The industry's verdict was swift and unequivocal. This was commercial suicide. Studio executives recoiled at the proposed budget, balked at the unconventional narrative, and openly questioned Costner's sanity. Financing became a brutal uphill battle. Costner, with producer Jim Wilson, tirelessly pitched the project, only to be met with a chorus of polite but firm rejections. The project earned the derisive nickname Costner's Folly long before a single frame was shot, a testament to the industry's deep-seated belief that it was doomed to fail. Undeterred, fueled by an almost stubborn belief in the story's power, Costner embarked on a relentless crusade. He poured his heart and soul into the screenplay, collaborating closely with Michael Blake to ensure the narrative's authenticity and emotional weight. He personally sought out Native American actors, recognizing the imperative of genuine representation, immersing himself and his crew in the Lakota culture. This commitment extended to a meticulous effort to accurately portray the Lakota language, hiring linguistic coaches to train his cast, understanding that these details were not mere window dressing, but fundamental pillars of the film's integrity. The logistical challenges were staggering: remote shooting locations across South Dakota, thousands of miles from the comforts of Hollywood, where the weather was unpredictable and unforgiving. The coordination of hundreds of extras, including dozens of highly skilled Native American riders. The monumental task of filming the iconic buffalo hunt, a sequence that required wrangling thousands of animals, an undertaking of unprecedented scale and danger. Each day brought new trials: blistering heat, freezing winds, unexpected blizzards, equipment failures, and the sheer physical exhaustion of working in such an isolated and demanding environment. But these external challenges paled in comparison to the immense personal and financial risks Kevin Costner willingly shouldered. When studio backing remained elusive or came with unacceptable creative compromises, Costner made a decision that astonished and terrified many. He reached into his own pockets. He famously mortgaged his house, invested millions of his hard-earned money accumulated from his successful acting career, into Dances with Wolves. This wasn't just a professional gamble, it was a deeply personal one. He put his entire family's financial security on the line, betting his legacy, his reputation, and his future on a film that the vast majority of Hollywood believed would bankrupt him. His wife, Cindy Silva, reportedly urged caution, fearing the worst, but ultimately stood by his unwavering conviction. The pressure was unimaginable. Every dollar spent, every day lost to weather, every unforeseen problem chipped away at not just the film's budget, but at Costner's own personal fortune. The whispers of Costner's folly were constant, a dark cloud hanging over the production, amplifying the stakes to an almost unbearable degree. He had invested not just his money, but his very identity into this project. Failure would not merely be a professional setback, it would be a public humiliation, a financial catastrophe, and a devastating blow to his artistic credibility. Then came the miracle. Against all odds, the film was completed. It was long, sweeping, and utterly breathtaking. When Dances with Wolves finally premiered in 1990, the initial reception was cautious. It wasn't an immediate explosion at the box office. But then, something extraordinary happened. Word of mouth began to spread like wildfire. Audiences were captivated, moved, and utterly enthralled. The film, released on a modest number of screens, slowly but steadily began to build momentum. People were not just watching it, they were experiencing it, talking about it, and urging others to see it. What began as a ripple soon became a tidal wave. Critical acclaim, once skeptical, transformed into outright adoration. Reviewers hailed its grandeur, its poignant storytelling, its stunning cinematography, and its courageous refusal to compromise its vision. Costner's directorial debut was lauded as a masterpiece, a film that dared to challenge conventions and succeeded spectacularly. The commercial success of Dances with Wolves was nothing short of unprecedented. It defied every pessimistic prediction, ultimately grossing over $424 million worldwide on a budget of just $22 million, becoming the fourth highest-grossing film of its year. But its impact extended far beyond mere box office numbers. Dances with Wolves single-handedly revitalized the Western genre, breathing new life into a category that many in Hollywood had long declared dead. It demonstrated that audiences craved intelligent, epic storytelling rooted in history and human emotion, and that a Western could be both respectful of indigenous cultures and wildly entertaining. It set a new standard for portraying Native Americans on screen, shifting the narrative from simplistic caricatures to complex, fully realized characters with their own rich culture and perspectives. This film didn't just tell a story, it changed how Hollywood viewed an entire segment of American history. Its influence resonated for years, paving the way for other historically conscious dramas and prompting a re-examination of American identity through the lens of its frontier past. The crowning glory arrived on Oscar night. Dances with Wolves dominated the 63rd Academy Awards, receiving 12 nominations and ultimately sweeping 7 major awards. Best Picture, the ultimate validation. Best Director, an astonishing triumph for a first-time filmmaker who had been ridiculed just months before. It also clinched awards for Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, Best Original Score, and Best Sound. As Kevin Costner stood on that stage, clutching the golden statuette for Best Director, his voice filled with a quiet emotion, he wasn't just accepting an award. He was accepting the vindication of his unwavering belief, the culmination of years of relentless effort, and the silencing of every doubter. It was a moment of profound personal and professional redemption. This extraordinary success fundamentally, irrevocably shifted public perception of Kevin Costner. He was no longer just the charming leading man from The Untouchables or Field of Dreams, a talented actor who happened to be good-looking. He had proven himself to be a visionary filmmaker, a tenacious auteur capable of executing an epic vision against overwhelming odds. The industry and the public now saw him as a serious director, a storyteller with a distinctive voice and an unyielding commitment to his craft. He had achieved the ultimate artistic freedom, earning the respect of his peers and critics alike. Dances with Wolves cemented his legacy not just as a Hollywood star, but as a pivotal figure who reshaped American cinema, proving that even in the face of immense tragedy and profound heartache later in life, the strength of his artistic conviction could, for a time, move mountains. The year 1990 crowned Kevin Costner a king. Dances with Wolves, his directorial debut, not only swept the Oscars with 7 wins, including Best Picture and Best Director, but it also captivated the world, earning over $424 million globally against a modest $22 million budget. It wasn't just a film, it was a phenomenon, a poetic epic that redefined the Western genre and etched Costner's name into Hollywood's pantheon as a visionary artist, a man of profound integrity and unparalleled ambition. He was at the pinnacle, afforded the rare luxury of creative control, an unblemished reputation, and the full faith of an industry that saw him as a golden touch. He had proven that his instincts were not just good, but revolutionary. The world was his oyster, and his next moves were anticipated with bated breath, expected to further solidify his legendary status. But the very ambition that propelled him to such dizzying heights would, in the years that followed, become a double-edged sword, slicing through his carefully constructed image and leaving a temporary yet deep scar on his professional legacy. Having achieved the impossible with Dances with Wolves, Costner seemed to set his sights even higher, determined to push the boundaries of storytelling and spectacle. This period, following his greatest triumph, would ironically mark the beginning of his most significant professional challenges, as he embarked on two productions so gargantuan in their scope and so audacious in their vision that they threatened to swallow him whole: Waterworld and The Postman. The first tremor came with Waterworld. Conceived as a grand post-apocalyptic saga set in a future where the polar ice caps have melted, submerging the Earth entirely beneath water. It presented a vision unlike anything seen before. Humanity clung to makeshift floating cities and scavenged remnants of a forgotten world, while a rare few, like Costner's Mariner, adapted to life on the endless ocean, sporting gills and webbed feet. The premise was bold, original, and utterly captivating, a dystopian epic that promised both breathtaking action and profound commentary on environmentalism and human resilience. Costner was not just the star, he was the driving force, a passionate producer who believed wholeheartedly in the film's potential to awe and inspire. His vision was clear: to deliver a spectacle that would redefine blockbuster cinema. However, the sheer scale of this vision soon collided head-on with the brutal realities of filmmaking. Shooting a film predominantly on water, particularly on the open ocean off the coast of Hawaii, proved to be a logistical nightmare of epic proportions. From the outset, the budget, initially projected at a substantial $100 million, began to swell uncontrollably. Custom-built, massive floating sets, including a towering, intricate atoll that was practically a self-contained city, were perpetually at the mercy of the elements. Storms ravaged the structures, strong currents dragged away equipment, and the relentless sun and saltwater took an immense toll on both machinery and morale. Simply transporting fresh water to the remote locations for the crew, let alone the specialized equipment and countless extras, became a monumental, daily undertaking that drained resources and time. The challenges were compounded by creative tensions. Kevin Reynolds, a longtime collaborator and friend of Costner's who had directed him in Fandango and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, was initially at the helm. But as the production spiraled, marked by daily crises and unprecedented budget overruns, creative differences between the two intensified. Costner, with his producer hat firmly on and his immense investment in the project, began to exert more control, reportedly clashing with Reynolds over everything from script changes to the final cut. The situation escalated to the point where Reynolds ultimately walked away from the project, leaving Costner to essentially take over directorial duties, albeit uncredited, for significant portions of the film. This public fallout further fueled the media's narrative of an out-of-control production, painting Costner as a demanding, perhaps even megalomaniacal star who had become too big for his britches. The budget continued to balloon, eventually soaring past $175 million, making Waterworld the most expensive film ever made at that time, a fact that was widely reported with a mixture of awe and cynical anticipation. By the time Waterworld finally reached theaters in 1995, the pre-release narrative was already set. It was an undeniable flop, a colossal failure before a single frame had even been seen by the public. Nicknamed Fishtar, a derogatory nod to the infamous box office bomb Ishtar, the film was relentlessly mocked for its exorbitant costs and chaotic production. The media, which had once lauded Costner as a genius, now delighted in documenting every perceived misstep, every leaked story of extravagance and difficulty. There was a palpable sense of schadenfreude, a collective eagerness to witness the fall of the man who had seemingly done no wrong just a few years prior. Upon its release, Waterworld did manage to gross over $264 million worldwide. On paper, that might seem respectable. However, for a film with a production budget that neared $175 million and a marketing budget that added tens of millions more, a general rule of thumb dictates that a film needs to earn at least 2.5 times its production cost just to break even after studio cuts, exhibitor percentages, and marketing expenses. By this measure, Waterworld fell significantly short of being profitable during its initial theatrical run. While it eventually recouped its costs through international markets, home video sales, and television rights over many years, the immediate, overwhelming public and critical consensus was that it was an unmitigated disaster. Critics were merciless. They lambasted the film as bloated, self-indulgent, and dramatically inert. The ambitious premise, they argued, was squandered on a clunky plot, thinly drawn characters, and a pace that often felt as stagnant as the endless ocean itself. Costner's performance as the stoic, mutated mariner, initially praised as unique, was now derided as uncharismatic and one-note. The very spectacle that was meant to be its strength was now seen as a testament to excess, a film drowning in its own grandiosity. The narrative of hubris was cemented. Kevin Costner, the humble baseball player and frontier hero, had let success go to his head, believing his artistic vision was infallible, regardless of the cost. The public goodwill he had so meticulously cultivated seemed to evaporate overnight, replaced by a widespread perception of arrogance and financial irresponsibility. If Waterworld had merely dented Costner's reputation, his next major endeavor, The Postman, delivered a crushing blow that truly shook the foundations of his career. In the wake of Waterworld's perceived failure, Costner needed a clear comeback, a project that would remind audiences of his talent and humility. Instead, he doubled down on his ambitious, post-apocalyptic vision, choosing to direct and star in another epic about rebuilding society after a catastrophic event. Based on David Brin's well-regarded 1985 novel, The Postman followed a nameless drifter in a ravaged, near-future America who, by chance, dons the uniform of a deceased postal worker and begins delivering mail, inadvertently inspiring hope and helping to unify disparate communities against a tyrannical warlord. Costner once again poured his heart and soul into the project, believing deeply in its message of hope, community, and the power of symbols to reignite the human spirit. He saw it as a profound commentary on America's identity and resilience. But where Dances with Wolves resonated with a historical yearning, The Postman felt anachronistic and, for many, deeply self-serving. Despite not reaching Waterworld's dizzying budget heights, it was still a significantly expensive film for the late 1990s, with production costs estimated around $80 million. Costner, having tasted the ultimate creative control, once again exerted immense influence as director and star, shaping the film to fit his particular vision. The film's release in 1997 was nothing short of catastrophic. The Postman was an utter box office bomb, grossing a paltry $17.6 million worldwide against its substantial budget. It wasn't just a failure, it was an unequivocal financial disaster, confirming to many in Hollywood and the public that Waterworld was not an anomaly, but a dangerous pattern in Costner's career choices. The critical reception was even more brutal than for Waterworld. Critics savaged The Postman for its excessive length, clocking in at nearly 3 hours, its preachy tone, and what many perceived as Costner's messianic portrayal of himself. His character, the titular postman, was often described as being imbued with Christ-like qualities, single-handedly bringing salvation to a broken world, which critics found utterly insufferable and self-aggrandizing. The film was nominated for multiple Golden Raspberry Awards, or Razzies, an annual award for the worst in film, and swept several major categories, including Worst Picture, Worst Director, and Worst Actor for Costner. This was not just a critical panning, it was an outright public humiliation, a resounding declaration from Hollywood and its observers that Kevin Costner had lost his way. The cumulative impact of Waterworld and The Postman on Kevin Costner's career was profound and immediate. The narrative of hubris, once a whisper, became a roaring chorus. He was no longer seen as the discerning, talented artist, but as an arrogant auteur, incapable of reining in his grand ambitions, making films for himself rather than for an audience, and consistently misjudging the commercial viability and critical appeal of his passion projects. Studios became wary of entrusting him with large-scale productions, especially in a directorial capacity. His bankability as a leading man in blockbuster films was severely diminished. For a significant period, the phone stopped ringing for the types of roles that had defined his earlier career. This era marked a distinct shift in his professional trajectory. The door to directing big-budget epics closed, and it would be many years before he would step behind the camera again. His acting roles became smaller, often in supporting capacities, or in independent films with more modest budgets. He was no longer the guaranteed box office draw, the star who could command a project on his name alone. It was a humbling, challenging time, a period where the immense personal and professional pressures must have been relentless. To witness two passion projects on which he had staked so much of his reputation and personal capital fail so spectacularly and publicly was undoubtedly a devastating experience. The public ridicule, the critical vitriol, and the cold shoulder from an industry that once adored him all took their toll. The man once hailed as the last true cowboy of Hollywood began to be seen as stubborn, out of touch, and unwilling to adapt. Yet this was not the end. It was, as the description suggests, a temporary dent. This era of blockbuster risks and unforeseen backlash forged in Costner a new kind of resilience, a quiet determination to weather the storm. The man who had faced down challenges on screen now had to face them in real life, navigating the turbulence with a strength that few could imagine. It taught him hard lessons about Hollywood's fickle nature, the fine line between ambition and arrogance, and the importance of rebuilding trust, one smaller, carefully chosen project at a time. It was a necessary trial by fire, shaping the legend he would continue to become, albeit on a very different path. Beyond the roaring applause and the glittering trophies, beneath the surface of the iconic roles that defined a generation, Kevin Costner's life has been a tumultuous sea of personal battles, where the stakes were far higher than any box office return. For a man who so eloquently portrayed steadfastness and unwavering commitment on screen, his private journey through love and loss has been a testament to the profound, often brutal cost of a life lived in the blinding glare of Hollywood's spotlight. It's a narrative riddled with heartbreaks and difficult choices, where the pursuit of an extraordinary career frequently clashed with the quiet, fundamental needs of family and domestic bliss, leaving scars that even the most celebrated actor couldn't hide. His first significant chapter of personal commitment began long before the world knew his name, back in his college days with Cindy Silva. She was his sweetheart, a vibrant and grounding presence who met him when he was just a hopeful, ambitious young man, far removed from the global phenomenon he would become. Their union, solemnized in 1978, was built on the earnest dreams of youth, a shared vision of a future that likely included children, a home, and the simple joys of a life together, far from the complex machinations of show business. Cindy was a crucial anchor during his struggling artist years, witnessing the endless auditions, the rejections, and the tireless grind that eventually led to his breakthrough. She was there before the fame, a silent pillar of support as he painstakingly built his career, enduring the financial uncertainties and the crushing disappointments. She believed in him when few others did, nurturing his spirit and reminding him of his innate talent. However, the very success she helped him foster ultimately became a formidable wedge in their relationship. As Costner's star ascended with films like The Untouchables, Bull Durham, and especially Dances with Wolves, which catapulted him into the stratosphere of A-list celebrity, the pressures on their marriage became immense, almost unbearable. The long months spent on remote film sets, the relentless travel, the constant public scrutiny, and the inevitable temptations that accompany immense fame began to chip away at the foundations of their once impenetrable bond. The man who was increasingly becoming a global idol was less and less present as a husband and father at home. Rumors of infidelity, though often unsubstantiated, circulated relentlessly, fueled by a voracious tabloid culture eager to dissect the private lives of Hollywood's elite. It became a classic, heartbreaking tale of a partnership unable to withstand the centrifugal force of superstardom. After 16 years and 3 children, Annie, Lily, and Joe, the couple decided to part ways in 1994, a decision that sent ripples of shock through Hollywood and left Costner, by his own admission, deeply wounded. The divorce settlement was reported to be around $80 million, an astronomical sum at the time, which underscored not just the financial success he had achieved, but also the staggering personal price paid for that triumph. It was a profound loss, a public acknowledgement that even the most seemingly idyllic Hollywood marriages could shatter under the weight of ambition and exposure. The period following his divorce from Cindy was marked by a distinct shift in Costner's personal life, reflecting a man grappling with the aftermath of a broken family and the relentless demands of his career. While he continued to immerse himself in his craft, delivering memorable performances, his romantic life became more transient, a series of connections that didn't immediately lead to the enduring commitment he once knew. During this time, notably, he welcomed another son, Liam, with Bridget Rooney in 1996, further expanding his family in a less conventional structure. This demonstrated a man who, despite the complexities of his public life, still deeply valued fatherhood and the continuation of his lineage, even if it meant navigating the challenges of co-parenting outside of marriage. These experiences undoubtedly shaped his perspective on relationships, making him perhaps more cautious, yet still yearning for a profound connection. It was this yearning that eventually led him to Christine Baumgartner. Their romance began in 1999, blossoming into a relationship that culminated in their marriage in 2004. Christine, a model and handbag designer, was significantly younger than Costner, but their connection appeared strong, built on a mature understanding of his past and his unique lifestyle. However, a significant hurdle emerged early in their courtship: Christine's desire for children, and Costner's initial reluctance to embark on that journey again, especially after the heartache and challenges of his first marriage. He had already raised 4 children and had experienced the strains of balancing fatherhood with a demanding career. For Christine, however, having children was a non-negotiable aspect of a future together. This fundamental difference almost ended their relationship before it truly began. Costner, in a candid admission, revealed that he had to confront his fears and ultimately recognized that Christine was the woman he wanted to spend the rest of his life with, and that meant embracing the prospect of starting a new family. It was a testament to his love for her that he eventually agreed, and they went on to have 3 beautiful children together: Caden, Hayes, and Grace. For nearly 2 decades, their marriage seemed like a beacon of stability in the often turbulent sea of Hollywood relationships. They built a life together, primarily centered at their sprawling Santa Barbara compound, a picturesque haven away from the glare of Los Angeles. Costner often spoke lovingly of Christine and their children, painting a picture of domestic contentment. Yet, beneath the serene surface, familiar tensions began to simmer. As Costner approached his late 60s and entered his 70s, his career experienced a remarkable resurgence with the phenomenal success of Yellowstone. The show required him to spend extensive periods away from home, often filming in Montana. Simultaneously, he embarked on his ambitious passion project, Horizon, an American saga, a multi-film Western epic that demanded even more of his time, energy, and personal financial investment. He was fully committed to these monumental endeavors, pouring his heart and soul into the craft that had defined his life. This renewed professional intensity, while exhilarating for Costner, created an undeniable rift in his family life. The delicate balance he had strived to maintain between career and family began to tilt precariously. Christine reportedly grew increasingly frustrated with his prolonged absences and the sacrifices she and their children were asked to make for his artistic pursuits. The quiet tensions eventually escalated, and in a move that blindsided not only the public, but reportedly Costner himself, Christine filed for divorce in May 2023, citing irreconcilable differences. What followed was a highly publicized, acrimonious legal battle that dragged both parties through the emotional and financial ringer. The media, ever eager for celebrity drama, feasted on the details. The disputes centered around child support, the validity of their prenuptial agreement, and Christine's reluctance to vacate their shared family home. Costner, usually reserved about his private life, found himself in court, publicly discussing intimate details of his finances, his travel schedule, and the profound sadness he felt over the dissolution of his marriage. He spoke of being forced out of his own home, of his deep concern for his children, and of the immense personal cost of the legal proceedings. The narrative that emerged was one of conflicting priorities. Costner's unwavering dedication to his cinematic vision, clashing with Christine's desire for more consistent family presence and stability. The divorce highlighted the often unspoken truth that even with immense wealth and success, the fundamental human challenges of balancing personal ambitions with family responsibilities remain astoundingly complex. The emotional toll on Costner was palpable. Here was a man, celebrated globally, yet once again facing the devastating reality of a broken home in his twilight years. The proceedings were not just about money. They were about the tearing apart of a family unit he had painstakingly rebuilt, the loss of a life he had envisioned, and the public dismantling of his private world. This recent divorce, coming at a time when he was pouring everything into Horizon, served as a stark, painful reminder that the pursuit of legacy often comes with a steep personal price, leaving emotional wounds that fame and fortune cannot heal. It underscored the heartbreaking reality that the legendary last true cowboy of Hollywood, a man of immense strength and resolve on screen, was, off-screen, just as vulnerable to the universal pains of love lost and the profound challenges of navigating a personal life under the unyielding weight of an extraordinary career. His heart, it seems, has been one of his greatest battlegrounds, proving that for all the triumphs and accolades, the true cost of stardom is often measured in the quiet fragments of a shattered personal life. By the late 2010s, while Kevin Costner certainly hadn't faded into obscurity, his prolific leading man days seemed, to some, to be a memory. He was still active, still commanding respect, but the kind of role that truly redefined his status as a cinematic titan felt elusive. Then, something shifted. A seismic event rippled through the television landscape, a series that would not only captivate millions, but also provide Costner with a canvas grand enough for his enduring artistry. This, of course, was Yellowstone. Created by the visionary Taylor Sheridan, Yellowstone arrived in 2018, a sprawling, epic Western drama that tapped into a vein of American storytelling long underrepresented in mainstream media. It was a saga of land, legacy, and loyalty, centered around the Dutton family, owners of the largest contiguous ranch in the United States. And at its core, as the steadfast, often ruthless patriarch John Dutton, stood Kevin Costner. His casting wasn't just a choice, it felt like destiny. Who else could embody the stoic strength, the inherent conflict, and the rugged authenticity required for such a character? Costner brought with him decades of embodying the American spirit, from the wide-open plains of Dances with Wolves to the diamond fields of Field of Dreams. He was, quite simply, born for this role. From the moment John Dutton appeared on screen, a man whose very silhouette spoke of grit and unwavering resolve, audiences were transfixed. Costner's portrayal wasn't merely acting, it was an absorption of a character's very soul. He didn't just play John Dutton, he became him. The quiet intensity in his eyes, a wisdom born from a lifetime of hard decisions, conveyed more than pages of dialogue ever could. There was a steely determination, a paternal protectiveness, and a raw, sometimes brutal practicality that defined Dutton. Yet, Costner also allowed glimpses of vulnerability, moments of profound grief, and a deep, abiding love for his family and the land they fought tooth and nail to protect. He made Dutton a morally complex figure, a man who would cross any line to safeguard his empire, forcing viewers to constantly grapple with their judgments. This wasn't just a cowboy. This was a king, deeply flawed but undeniably majestic, reigning over a modern-day feudal system in the American West. The impact was immediate and profound. Yellowstone quickly transcended its initial cable niche, growing into a bona fide cultural phenomenon. It connected with an audience craving stories of tradition, resilience, and the untamed spirit of the frontier, a demographic often overlooked by the coastal elite. For Costner, it was nothing short of a renaissance. He wasn't just returning to the spotlight, he was being introduced to an entirely new generation of viewers who perhaps knew him more from his legendary status than from active consumption of his work. These younger fans discovered the gravitas, the magnetic presence, and the sheer power of Costner through John Dutton, cementing his icon status for a new era. Social media buzzed with Dutton quotes, fan theories, and appreciation for Costner's commanding performance. It was a career reinvigoration that few actors of his tenure ever experience, placing him firmly back at the pinnacle of Hollywood's most sought-after talent. Moreover, Yellowstone indelibly solidified Costner's image as the last true cowboy of Hollywood. This moniker isn't merely about his numerous Western films. It's about an essence, a worldview he embodies both on and off screen. It speaks to a connection to the land, an unwavering sense of personal code, a rugged individualism, and a quiet strength that resonates deeply with a certain American archetype. John Dutton, in his weathered hat and dusty boots, navigating intricate power plays while saddled with the weight of generations, became the ultimate embodiment of this persona. He was the protector of a fading way of life, a man fighting against the encroaching modernity and the relentless march of progress, echoing the very battles Costner himself often seemed to champion in his own filmography. The role wasn't just a job, it felt like an extension of his own cinematic legacy, a culmination of all the brave, often solitary figures he had brought to life. The cultural footprint of Yellowstone extended far beyond individual performances. It sparked a resurgence of the modern Western genre, inspiring countless imitators and multiple successful spin-offs, all under Taylor Sheridan's expanding universe. It became a talking point, a show that transcended traditional demographics to become appointment viewing for millions across the nation. It explored complex themes of land development, environmentalism, indigenous rights, and the brutal realities of family business, all set against the breathtaking backdrop of Montana. But at the very heart of this sprawling, successful enterprise was Kevin Costner. His presence was not just an advantage, it was indispensable. He was the anchor, the moral compass, however twisted it sometimes became, and the undisputed face of the franchise. It's difficult, if not impossible, to imagine Yellowstone achieving its unprecedented success without Costner's towering performance as John Dutton, a role that rightfully earned him a Golden Globe Award for Best Actor, validating both critical and popular adoration. This period was a glorious testament to his enduring appeal and undeniable talent, a powerful reminder that some legends only grow stronger with time, ready to ride back into the sunset and reclaim their throne, albeit with a new, indelible brand burned onto their enduring legacy. But the real maelstrom in Kevin Costner's life today isn't brewing on a film set. It's raging in the heart of his personal world and threatening the very foundation of his final, most ambitious artistic endeavor. At an age when most Hollywood legends are comfortably retreating into well-earned retirement, Costner, at 70, has embarked on a colossal passion project, a multi-part epic western titled Horizon: An American Saga. This isn't just another movie, it's the culmination of a 3-decade dream, a sprawling 4-film narrative chronicling the expansion of the American West. It's a testament to his enduring love affair with the genre that defined much of his career, a story he's been meticulously crafting and refining since 1988, a cinematic vision so grand, so deeply personal that he's thrown everything he has into bringing it to life. And when we say everything, we mean it with an almost heartbreaking literalness. Costner has personally invested an astonishing $38 million of his own money into Horizon. For context, that's not just a significant portion of his net worth, it's a colossal gamble, a breathtaking show of faith in a project that studios were seemingly unwilling to fully back themselves. He's mortgaged land, dipped into personal savings, and sacrificed immediate financial security for the sake of this artistic behemoth. He's reportedly even sold a 10-acre parcel of prime Santa Barbara beachfront property to inject more capital into the production. This isn't just a producer putting up some cash. This is an artist betting his entire legacy, and indeed, much of his present and future financial stability, on a single monumental creative swing. This incredible leap of faith, this audacious personal investment, has unfolded against the backdrop of an equally tumultuous personal upheaval: his divorce from Christine Baumgartner, his wife of 18 years. The timing couldn't be more cruelly ironic. As Costner was pouring every last cent and ounce of energy into manifesting his lifelong dream on screen, his personal world was disintegrating, threatening to pull the rug out from under him, not just emotionally, but financially. The divorce proceedings rapidly devolved into a bitter, highly public, and exceedingly costly financial dispute that directly intersected with the immense financial strain of Horizon. The details emerging from the divorce court painted a stark picture of the immense pressure Costner was under. Christine, his estranged wife, sought an initial monthly child support payment of over $248,000 for their 3 children, later reduced to $63,209 by a judge, but still a staggering amount. There were disputes over the prenuptial agreement, the primary residence, and the alleged lavish lifestyle that Christine maintained. Costner found himself having to publicly detail his finances, revealing the immense personal debt he had incurred to fund Horizon. He testified that he was losing a fortune on the film, that he was under immense pressure to find the money to complete it, and that he needed to keep enough cash on hand to finish production. He explained that his ability to pay the requested spousal and child support was directly impacted by his commitment to his passion project, effectively putting Horizon right at the heart of his divorce battle. It transformed a personal tragedy into a very public, very financially entangled struggle, making his artistic dream an unlikely pawn in a legal chess match. Adding another layer to this already complex tapestry, Costner famously walked away from the incredibly lucrative Yellowstone series, the very show that had revitalized his career and reminded a new generation of his undeniable star power. He was reportedly earning well over $1 million per episode for his role as John Dutton. However, the production schedule for Yellowstone Season 5, Part 2 clashed irrevocably with the extensive shooting schedule required for Horizon, which he was committed to directing and starring in back-to-back. The decision was clear: either finish out Yellowstone for an immense payout or commit fully to Horizon, his lifelong dream. He chose Horizon, effectively turning his back on tens of millions of dollars and potentially alienating the producers and network that had given him one of his biggest hits in decades. This was not just a professional choice, it was a profound personal statement, a declaration that some artistic visions are worth more than any paycheck, even at the cost of significant financial stability and potential future opportunities. The tragedy of Kevin Costner at 70 isn't just about financial risk or a messy divorce. It's the relentless pursuit of a dream against an increasingly formidable tide of adversity. It's the heartbreaking image of a man, a legend in his own right, emptying his pockets and baring his soul to complete a vision, only to have the very personal life he built with his family crumble around him. It's the immense pressure of knowing that the success or failure of Horizon doesn't just rest on its artistic merit, but on whether he can financially survive the gauntlet of his personal life to even complete it. At an age when the average person is looking forward to quiet comfort, Kevin Costner is locked in a battle on multiple fronts, fighting in court over millions, fighting against time and budget on set, and fighting to maintain his emotional equilibrium amidst the public scrutiny. This isn't merely the challenge of making a movie, it's the profound, all-consuming struggle of an artist attempting to solidify his legacy while his world is actively trying to pull him apart. The stakes couldn't be higher. If Horizon succeeds, it will be a testament to unparalleled perseverance and artistic conviction. If it fails, it risks taking with it not just his financial security, but potentially the very last chapter of a truly iconic career, leaving behind a legacy shadowed by the immense, heartbreaking cost of chasing a dream into his 7th decade. It is a gamble of staggering proportions, and for a man who has given so much to cinema, it's a poignant, almost devastating final act. Yet, even as we delve into the profound personal trials and tribulations that have marked Kevin Costner's journey into his 70s, a question inevitably arises. Why does he remain not just relevant, but revered? Why, despite the relentless spotlight of fame, the crushing weight of public scrutiny, and the deeply personal heartbreaks he has endured, does the world still affectionately, almost instinctively, brand him the last true cowboy of Hollywood? It's a title that transcends mere acting roles. It's a testament to an enduring legacy forged from a unique, almost alchemical blend of qualities that resonate deeply with the American spirit. His lasting impact on Hollywood and popular culture isn't solely derived from box office receipts or critical accolades, though he has certainly accumulated his fair share of both. It stems from his unwavering commitment to a particular kind of storytelling, a narrative thread woven through nearly every character he has brought to life. Costner has consistently embodied a rugged individualism, a self-reliant spirit that champions conviction over convenience and integrity over compromise. From the windswept plains of Dances with Wolves to the vast, untamed wilderness of Open Range and even the modern-day empire of Yellowstone, his characters often stand as solitary figures, guided by an internal moral compass, fighting for what they believe is right, often against overwhelming odds. This isn't just acting, it's an ethos that he has projected so authentically that it has become synonymous with his public persona, cementing his image as a man of principle in a world often devoid of it. But beyond the grit and the stoicism lies an equally powerful force, his artistic ambition. This wasn't a man content to simply show up, hit his marks, and collect a paycheck. Kevin Costner harbored a visionary drive, an audacious willingness to bet his own fortune and reputation on projects he passionately believed in. Dances with Wolves stands as the towering monument to this ambition, a sweeping epic that, against all industry advice, he poured his heart, soul, and personal wealth into, ultimately yielding a masterpiece that redefined the Western genre and swept the Academy Awards. This artistic courage, this readiness to risk everything for a story he felt needed to be told, is a rare commodity in an industry often driven by focus groups and market research. Even when these ambitious gambles didn't pay off commercially, like Waterworld or The Postman, they spoke volumes about his commitment to big, bold ideas rather than playing it safe. Perhaps most profoundly, what truly solidifies his status as the last true cowboy is his unwavering resilience. Life, both personal and professional, has thrown everything it possibly could at Kevin Costner. He's weathered devastating box office flops that threatened to derail his career, endured brutal critical lambasting, navigated highly publicized and painful divorces, and faced incredibly challenging financial and emotional battles. Yet, through it all, he has consistently demonstrated an unbowed spirit. He dusts himself off, recalibrates, and reemerges, often stronger and more determined. This isn't just perseverance, it's a quiet fortitude, a refusal to be broken by adversity, much like the cowboys of old who faced down blizzards and droughts with an unyielding spirit. This ability to absorb the blows, learn from the falls, and continue riding forward, steadfastly pursuing new creative horizons, resonates deeply. It's why, even at 70, with life's profound tragedies unfolding around him, Kevin Costner remains a revered figure, an embodiment of classic American storytelling, and indeed, the enduring spirit of the last true cowboy. As we draw the curtain on this detailed look into the life of Kevin Costner, we're left with a profound understanding of a journey that transcends mere celebrity. From the dust-laden roads of Lynwood, California, to the glittering yet often unforgiving heights of Hollywood, Costner built an empire of cinematic dreams. He gifted us iconic performances, directed masterpieces that redefined genres, and consistently pursued an artistic vision that was uniquely his own, often at great personal and professional cost. He was the fearless protector in our hearts, the unwavering idealist on screen, and the visionary who dared to challenge the status quo, etching his name into the annals of film history with grit and grace. Yet, beneath the radiant starlight and behind the captivating smile, we've witnessed the often heartbreaking weight of that ambition. The public scrutiny, the personal sacrifices, the searing losses, and the quiet battles fought away from the cameras, these define the human condition, amplified exponentially by the unforgiving lens of global fame. Kevin Costner's story is a vivid tapestry, woven with threads of extraordinary triumph and profound, sometimes crushing sorrow. Now, as the calendar page turns to his 70s, Costner faces perhaps his most poignant and deeply personal chapter. The man who once rode across vast cinematic landscapes, conquering cinematic frontiers, now navigates the intricate, often challenging, terrain of life's later stages. He grapples with new losses, embraces inevitable changes, and continues to forge the legacy he meticulously crafted over decades. His journey reminds us that even for a legend, life is an intricate dance between light and shadow. He embodies the enduring spirit of that last true American cowboy, rugged, resilient, and always riding towards the next horizon, no matter how steep or challenging the path may be. Kevin Costner's ride is far from over, and in his ongoing story, we find a timeless testament to courage, resilience, and the heartbreaking beauty of a life lived with unwavering authenticity. His spirit, much like the unforgettable characters he brought to life, will forever ride tall.